with finances. Do you feel like you would spoil a woman in your life?
Man, here's the thing with spoil. I think I give to you what you earn.
You're scaring me. Do I?
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book 91. We're talking to you guys about Ready to Love, and we're breaking down what Corvaya meant by when she said, you know what, do you spoil a woman? I always talk about this. Words can actually trigger people to have a different perspective in the moment. And sometimes the words that we use can actually miscommunicate what we actually mean and what we're trying to convey to the other person. Conveyor. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna break it all the way down. Hopefully, be able to bring you some understanding. I actually understood where she was coming from. I understood where Mark Anthony was coming from, and I want to explain why men get turned off when you use certain words like spoil, because it starts to initiate a conversation, which leads towards you basically being a spoiled brat, meaning someone who gets their own kind of way. And so you're actually procuring my resources through your behavior rather than actually being a place of, you know what, my generosity and my care. You're actually manipulating me to want to give you this. That's what spoiled brats do. Right? They behave in a particular way that manipulates you to actually give. So when you use "do you spoil women," sometimes that can be a miscommunication to somebody else when you're explaining what you really watch, what you really wanted to say. Kaveh, I believe, is that she wanted to say to him, are you a person that's generous? Are you a person that likes to take care of your woman? But the thing is, what's understood doesn't need to be said. Do you know what I mean? If I've got money and I like you, I'm gonna spend my money on you. Do you know what I'm saying? But we're gonna talk a little bit about that as we go along. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. You got the minerals. Oh, my voice is back. Are you mad? Listen, let's get into this. Stay hydrated because the streets out there, they are hot. All right, cool. So talking to you guys obviously about Corvaya and the Mark Anthony situation. The spoils comment that she made a comment about, do you spoil women? And, you know, I think this is understandable in this current climate. We have so many conversations in the modern era about men not spending money on women, or men being tight, or men not being generous, or men not open up their wallets for women, right? And of course, there've always been stingy men in the history of mankind. There's always been generous men in the history of mankind. But we're in a different precedence in terms of the fact that we're in a society now where women and men both work, and both parties are scared of one another in terms of them not giving and them taking. And so this conversation between Corvaya and Mark Anthony is one for the ages. And I say that because it has history, it has deeper experiences that goes beyond just Corvaya and Mark Anthony. It speaks to the whole, I guess, modern era between men and women, and conversations that we've had on the internet for so many years now. Now, what's interesting about this is that when you listen to Corvaya, I listened to it for the second and third time. I've gone over it, and I think what I'm hearing is something beyond what we see. What I mean by that is, it sounds like Corvaya's had some experiences where men have not been generous to her, right? And maybe she's chosen men that were not on her financial level, or men that were stingy, or men that withheld their resources from her, right? And so she's trying to ensure in this moment that she chooses a person who is generous and who's willing to give. But the word "and spoiled," you spoil a girl. And that's why his reaction also then goes to, no, you got to earn it. When really and truly, actually, both terms don't sound great either. I personally wouldn't say that, I want to. I'm going. You know what? That you have to earn my generosity. I'm moved by something that you do, and I am going to be generous. But I'm a generous person anyway. But then, obviously, I also understand the other side of things which is, don't try to procure my resources and say, do I have to spoil? Come with an expectation that you expect to have a hand in the resources that I've worked for. Both parties are feeling some type of way in the instance, because like she said, don't I just automatically earn it? You actually, let's listen to it a bit more, and we'll have this.
I really have to prove that I'm worthy of being spoiled, or can you not just pick up on it?
Now, what's really interesting is she's asking a question that is actually, the answer to her question is also the very I said I've answered the question, but the question she's asking also goes backwards towards her as well. Like him saying that, you know what, you got to earn it, and you're saying, well, can't you just see that I'm worthy of it? Well, can't you just see that, you know what, that, you know, if you are worthy of me being generous towards you as well, right? But you asked a direct question, which is, do you spoil a woman? Why couldn't you see that I would be able to be generous? But you then saying you want me to also just be able to see that that you're a person that deserves to have that worth. I think both parties oftentimes are trying to figure out each other's position, and the reality is, I think she tried to make it black and white and make it very plain about the fact that she wanted a man that's going to not be so stingy. That's the reality of it. What it is, but it's very hard to ask a question that way without it becoming across offensively, right? So that's why I said what's understood doesn't need to be said, right? And oftentimes we don't have to ask certain questions. Sometimes we have to let the conversation go in that direction and have examples of experiences that we've had that speak to how we want to be treated. I call it the more passive method than being direct, because when you start being very direct, men get offended. The same way that women get offended when men start asking about sex. It's very offensive to start speaking about my wallet when I start speaking about your body, because it's a very direct way of speaking. If you start speaking in passive terms, meaning we have conversation, it's a bit like the question, what do you bring to the table? Well, no woman likes that question anymore, right? But the reality is, what do you bring to the table? I'm going to ask that question, but not in that way. I'm going to have a conversation, and then I'm going to assess what you actually bring to the table, what qualities, what attributes, what characteristics, what skills, what your academic levels are. That's me actually, when I answer those questions, when I have those conversations, it's me assessing what do you bring to the table. And you're going to assess me, what do I bring to the table, by going around it too, right? And so there's a way to go around it without it being so direct, because it becomes offensive. So do you spoil women? Because you're actually right there asking, are you a brokey? Because that's what you're really saying. Because that's what you're gonna it's gonna be sounding like you're implying. You may not be, but that's what it's gonna sound like you're implying. So when you question and say, do you spoil women, you put him in a position. Now he has to ask that, wait, are you trying to say that I'm broke? If I say I do, now, okay, if I say I do now, fantastic. But when now you're making me feel like I have to do it, which means now it's no longer out of my generosity. It's no longer out of my heart to want to do this. You're forcing me to do it. That's not me giving freely. This is what the Bible talks about when you say give freely. Don't force someone's hand to give. This is why I hate tithing, because it's not even biblical, New Testament biblical anyway. But yeah, that's a story. But you're forcing someone's hand to do it, right? Rather than allowing a person to give freely and give however much they want to give. The reality is, when I love you and I care about you and I generally have a generous heart, you should watch how I move, right? You'll see that. Like, okay, I was in Ghana, and, you know, if you rolled with me, you know what I'm saying, you know, like, there's even a video on my Instagram, me and my friends, the girls I was with, and they're taking money out my wallet. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, if you're with me, I don't mind buying you a drink. I don't mind buying you stuff. I don't mind, you know, spending a bit of money on you, because it's not a big deal, because one, I have money, and two, also because I care about you. Do you know what I'm saying? If I care about you, I'm willing to spend on you. But now when you start trying to expect that I should do this thing, that's where now we start feeling offensive. Like, you don't get to have an expectation on my wallet. You never worked for my wallet, so calm yourself down. The same way I don't get to have an expectation over your body, because it's your body. Do you understand? So both parties can be offensive. So yes, Corvaya had the right idea in trying to understand where he was coming from and see what kind of man he was, that kind of generosity. But there should have been a passive way that she went about it, by asking for experiences, how he treated his women. That's what she should have been asking. The key question she should have been asking was, how do you treat your woman? How have you treated women in the past? And then you explain how you've been treated and how you want to be treated. Asking, do you spoil women? Sounds like you expect to be spoiled. And the word spoiled, again, has negative connotations, not a positive one. Let's listen a bit more quickly.
Nah, spoiling is not a good thing. So it does send off a red flag. I don't want to say, but it's kind of gold digger vibes.
So now you see what kind of impression he's got now. He's got an impression that she's a gold digger. And I don't think Corvaya is a gold digger. I think she likes expensive things. She made that very clear when she was talking with Lyndon and DeMario. So we know she likes her materialistic things. And I remember I had a conversation with a friend, even, shout out to her, you know who you are. And we're having this conversation. It's like, and I asked the same question. I asked a similar question. I was like, because the reality is, nobody wants an advantage of. men included, right? Now, of course, if I'm a millionaire, maybe I might not think of it as much, but I'm not a millionaire. Okay, all right. So thousandaire, yeah. Let's see about that, right? So if I earn a certain amount of money, I don't want to ever feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I don't mind doing these things. I don't mind paying for stuff. I don't mind doing this. I don't mind doing that because I understand it's within my remit. You know, it's my role. I can get that. But when you make loud, clear comments like that, do you spoil women? No. People get offended. You know what I mean? People get offended. So I understand where she's coming from. I think she was trying to assess the man in this state because maybe she's experienced things in the past. But you know what? You have to find a very clever way of getting those answers and extracting that information without asking a direct question. The same way women hate what do you bring to the table, a man's gonna hate do you spoil women. Like unless you're a sugar daddy, unless you're and this is the thing, unless you're a sugar daddy, unless you are a millionaire, whatever, you don't really care about those things because, to be honest, it's part of that. It's part of that process. But even then, if you listen to someone, and I was just listening to LL Cool J and Mike Tyson speak about this, bro, they don't want to be in a position of just provision because they want you to love them, not just what they do. But that's another story for another day. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads. Let us know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with my sentiment? Do you disagree? Do you think it's okay to ask a man, do you spoil them? You know, what's your thoughts around Corvaya and Mark Anthony's conversation? Bearing in mind, Mark Anthony and her started off with hands around with drinking the drink. He was good with her until she started speaking. Some of you, I've killed chances with men by simply the little things that you say. Like, subscribe.